Alright, hi everyone, this is a part 2 to the Branded Despia guide I made the other week. I'll start with a very slight update to the decklist itself that I'm currently running and have been running. I've been playing in the Duelist Cup and grinding that out. I'm exactly actually 40 games in right now. I've been tracking my win-loss ratio. I'm currently 36-4, which is a 90% win rate on the nose, which is fairly stellar for any deck ever in any game. Once you're above a 70 to 75% win rate, you have a real gem on your hands, I believe. I feel really reaffirmed in what I said in the last video that this is probably the best deck in the format, with a close runner-up in Dragon Link. And you could debate between the two, between Branded and Dragon Link. In the absolute worst case scenario for Branded, I would say it's tied with Dragon Link, which is, you know, a really good place to be considering they just got Despia. Still, I'm feeling great about the deck. Once I updated it after that last video, about I think like 2-3 games later, because I realized Branded Banishment can get back Quem. I just had that epiphany moment, and I was like, oh hey, this is yet another card that makes Quem really good. So to make the swap, I cut one Bistio Lubellion, and I added one copy of Branded Banishment. Every once in a while I was playing, I would switch between Lulu and Quertus. Quertus, if I can spell it. Yeah, I would swap between the two periodically, although I would say for a majority of the time I was on Lulu. Overall, I'm like I said, very impressed with the deck. I feel like just playing it has made, unironically, made me a better player. I'm really paying attention to what my opponents are doing. I'm really trying to maximize my resources and, you know, try and maximize what I can do each turn. I admit some games I kind of just send it because I realize I'm against a nothing deck. And another thing I noticed is a lot of people are just scooping very fast. They'll see I do like, and this is a problem I'd say for about a third to half. I did not count them, like physically or mentally, but off the top of my head, I would say about between a third and half of the games I played, the person would see me activate like a branded effect or two. Like I activate Bistio Lubellion or Fusion Deployment or Alibur or Quem or, you know, anything, or you know, in one game I remember I just blind fired Branded Fusion, and they were trying to be it was the only play I had. It was a otherwise bricked hand with no activatables at the time. But if Branded Fusion resolved, it would be an incredible hand. Just has to resolve, and I think they're trying to be a toggle Andy and catch the Branded Fusion after giving me a false sense of security. However, since I opened with Branded Fusion, they had their toggle set to off, they missed their window to Ash Blossom. They ashed me later mid combo, and I went, why didn't they Ash Branded Fusion? And I realized what they had done to themselves, because they wound up ashing Aluber, I think it was. I don't have that replay. I saved it because they scooped immediately after, and I was like, okay, so this isn't even worth showing off. It was just somebody trying to be a toggle Andy. But that's kind of the exception, not the norm. Most people will fire off their disruption effects as quickly as possible, hoping that you bricked otherwise and that they'll finish the game very fast. Like, I can't count the number of times I've had Fusion Deployment get ashed, Bestial Lubellion get ashed, Alibur get ashed, Branded Opening get ashed, and so on and so on. It does really feel like people just are spamming their effects as soon as they're applicable, and sometimes even when they're not. I ran into quite a few sloppy players, which boosts up the win rate and makes it look a lot higher than it really is. But I mean, over 40 games, I think I can say that the deck is performing exceptionally well. So I'll quickly go over Branded Banishment and why it made it into the deck. This is a normal trap that is a branded trap, so you can search it off of many effects. Its effect is that you target a Despia or an 8 or higher fusion monster in your graveyard. Oh, where will we find those? And then you special summon it, and you can apply this effect, and then you'll do a super poly type effect, but only for an 8 or higher fusion monster from your extra deck, and then you banish the fusion materials listed on it from either field. This is the card that made me go back and forth on Quertus so hard between this and Lulu. I do believe Lulu's spot is the most flexible part of the extra deck, but honestly, even just the revive off of this is really good. The fact that it also super polys is incredible. A lot of the time I would wind up making like a off of the super poly effect. It would often be like Dragostapelia. When I'm up against D-Link, it would be Borreload Furious Dragon. And sometimes those are the main two. Yeah, those are just the main two that would get resolved. But even sometimes I would just revive Mirror Jade and then like have it pretty much. Like that in of itself is perfectly fine. So that's the regular version of the deck. For I want to say 6 or 7 games, I believe it was 6. I was playing grass branded. That grass looks greener branded. So I'll bring you over to that deck list quickly. Okay, we're back. This is my grass version of the deck. I have lots. I added Tragedy, Mercurier, Shirens, more Bestial Lubellion, more Shrouded, just more graveyard payoffs. I'm on so many Bestials that I am on the full Bestial branded suite of Beast and Regained. So it's this deck. Oh, and I also added in Gimmick, Puppet, Nightmare to this deck. I added it with the idea that, I'm on 60 cards now. I'm only going to see this in my opening hand like 1 in every 8 games or whatever the statistical probability of it is. 4 out of 6 games I started with this thing in my hand, which is, I mean, the same odds as starting with Grass or Branded Fusion in my opening hand. So needless to say, I was a little bummed to see this thing being in my hand and clogging it up. It could, literally any of the branded spells would be instantaneously way better. But, you know, you can't have it all. However, it is still a generic dark, and it's a level 8, although that doesn't really come up. Aside from the fact that Grand Guinal can send it, right? But generally, when I have this thing stuck in my hand, I'll have it be discard fodder to one of my effects, assuming I don't have actual discard fodder I want to be sending. And then it'll just chill out in my graveyard, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to go for the Gimmick Lock this game because this thing clogged up my hand and I have to make it useful somehow. So that's where that wound up. And then this deck, I didn't really switch off of the Quertus. Because there's 2 Quem in the deck, I'm very frequently tagging out Grand Guinal to Quem, and then Quem does things. So, I got a handful of replays to show, and I'll try and walk through my decision-making process in each game, because I believe Branded is one of those decks, because it's a mid-range deck at its core. You can't just watch a combo guide and know how to play Branded. It's not like, say, Mathmech, or something like that, where you're kind of doing the same combo every game. The term for that is, of course, a linear deck. Branded is almost on the complete opposite side of the spectrum, and that is a very non-linear deck. Within a span of 10 games, you can probably expect to be playing a different game every game, because your hand will be different, you'll have to do different things. In addition to the fact, when you're going first or you're going second, the way in which you play fundamentally changes, because suddenly Albaz isn't just a guy who is popping synergies and stuff in your deck, like enabling you to summon Cartesia and whatnot. He's now one of your best board breakers because of his super poly effect, where he eats a guy, right? And Kirby's them and turns into like they finish on, I don't know, any extra deck monster. You summon Albaz and you're able to back him up with anything and guarantee his effect occurs in some way, and like you just got a free Mirror Jade, and you're looking real good at that point. So I played about 6 games with this deck and I won all of them. So this deck is, although it only has a handful of games under its belt, it's 100% win rate. However, I'm lumping those games into the 40 I played with the other deck, because they're still so fundamentally similar. I mean, it's still branded. I'm not doing anything different. I'm not playing like some variant. I've just gone up to 60 cards and added this one in. And to quickly explain this card, because some people might not know it, that grass looks greener. The TLDR of this card is that it's going to look at your deck and your opponent's deck, and you're going to discard a bunch of cards until you have the same number as them. So let's say I open that grass looks greener. I have 55 cards in my deck. I have a 5-card hand. My opponent has a standard 40-card deck, and they have 5 cards in hand. I play that grass looks greener, and it'll look at my deck, have 55 cards versus their 35, and it'll discard 20 cards off the top of my deck to get down to that 35 mark. Alright, so let's get into some replays. I'm going to try and talk through my mental process, or at least what I'm pretty sure I was thinking in each game. Some I'm going to remember better than others, I admit, but I got quite a few here to go through, and I hope you guys at least enjoy watching the deck in action. Alright, so here we go. This is the first replay. I don't remember because the Duelist Cup doesn't let you look at people's decks that you're playing against, I unfortunately can't remember what I was playing against at the time just by looking at the replay itself, so I have to kind of remember as we go. Although I do know that each deck, I believe, is fairly distinct, just so I could show a variety of things, which was a pain because getting all these replays to begin with was a pain, and then getting what I consider good ones to show was even worse. Anyway, so I've loaded into a game, and the first thing I do when I load into a game is I will literally sit here and I will look at my opening hand for like 15 to 30 seconds, depending on how complicated the hand is, which will vary from game to game. And I'll literally sit here and look at it and think, what can I do with this hand? What can this hand produce for me? What can I end on? And what makes me think about it for like 30 seconds. What can happen to me that will screw me over from my opponent, such as Ash Blossom, Infinite Impermanence, Effect Veiler, Maxi. Not that this deck cares very much about Maxi because we can play under it fairly well, but so let's go. When I see Bestial Lubellion in my opening hand, I'm pretty much going to resolve his effect every time. So they go for the Imperm on Quem, negating her. So I'm going to banish my Lubellion and then create Verte. Have that dump Branded Retribution. Here, I'm going to pause this so I can catch up to everything I've just done. So let's go over that real quick because I have this on fast forward and a lot happened very quickly. So Quem was negated, so Quem can't do anything. And I had Bestial Lubellion in my graveyard and Serenir in my hand. My hand is otherwise bricked, so I'm gonna go for Verte into Branded Fusion, making Sanctifier. And then I'm going to set what I have and pass, because this is good enough. Verte is of course any 2 effect monsters, so he's in this scenario a really good plan B. And I'm gonna probably I paused just a little early, but I'm gonna set this Banishment and pass, I'm sure. Yeah. So straight away we see we're against Purrely. They're gonna Ash my Maxi. Now I'm gonna pull in response to seeing that Maxi is not going to resolve and I'm not going to be getting draws off of this. I'm pulling Branded Fusion to my hand with Branded Retribution's Graveyard effect. I'm doing this because I now know it's Purrely, and I know I'm going to very likely be summoning Albaz with Sanctifier, and I'm going to be trying to eat one of their Purrelys, and I need a card in my hand to do that. And I also know that Super Poly likely is not going to resolve against them or do anything, because their monsters are fairly different in attributes. So they're going to start resolving some Purrely effects. They're going to... I picked one of the 3. They get Delicious, of course, and now they're, you know, off to the races. Pretty nuclear hits. Getting pretty off of the top here is Stellar. In response, so... I see they're trying to Xyz, or they're going to, I should say. They're going to Xyz Purrely with the Delicious in Graveyard. So I'm going to summon Albaz, and I want to fuse with this thing. And I put Serenir on their field just because I have to give them something. So as this resolves, Albaz is going to immediately start a chain, and I'm going to fuse away for Mirror Jade. Now this will trigger their field spell and their continuous spell, but I'm still feeling pretty good because this is a fusion summoned Mirror Jade. So they hit, you know, yet another card they can use as discard fodder. And I'm going to get rid of that Purrely in response to its effect activation, and then they make a plump. So this is their second plump. They're going to eat Imperm and Branded Fusion for materials. And now I'm going to go for that, and I'm going to fuse away this to make Dragostapelia. So now, oh, hold on. Get Cartesia back. Cool. Alright. So, a lot happened there, but basically I've set myself up so that, so 2 things happened. Number 1, I chain blocked the plump, so that it would not get a 5th material in response to the quick play spell. So it cannot get 5 materials and turn into like a Noir that they just sit on, or even an X-Purrely Happiness. Because a lot of Purrely players only know how to make Noir, pretty much. So stopping this felt like priority number 1, because it felt fairly obvious they're just going to try and end on Noir or something. So I have 2... So I chained Banishment to it, brought the card back, fused away with the Serenir, and made Dragostapelia. Now I have a targeted monster negate on the field, and then I'm going to use Quem to bring back Cartesia, who is going to give me more things to use. I'm going to make the Grand Guignol now and get this Verte off the board. Oh, and then they're going to see me pitch the Rinbrum, because I feel like I've, you know, kind of got this game wrapped up, and they're just going to scoop, because there's really nowhere for them to go from here. I've exhausted them. Alright, so here we are on another game. This is using the Grass branded deck, and I opened a fairly good opening hand, but also not incredible. It could be a lot better. seeing that grass looks greener in your opening hand with Called by the Grave to back it up in of itself is really good. And depending on what happens, Branded Opening can really pop off. Branded Beast is an almost dead card that's not really going to do anything for me here, but I do, you know, I'll get function out of it. I'll at least set the card and play it on their turn. So we're going to go straight for the grass. I do not get the full value I mentioned at the deck profile because they're on 45 cards instead of 40. So I only got the 15 mils rather than the 20. However, that's still a ton. You're about to see my graveyard effectively explode. So, chain resolution here. I milled a... So, when grass resolves, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to look at everything that hit the graveyard. And then you're going to look at everything you can activate and how many copies of it you hit in case you need to shuffle things back. So, chain order. I want Sheeran to be first. Shiren, however you want to say it. I believe it's Shiren. Or at least that's how you're supposed to say it. Anyway, I want Shiren on Chain Link 1, number 1, so that she's chain blocked, and number 2, so that she resolves last. It's a good habit to have, because a lot of the time, the deck likes to dump things into the graveyard that you can then fuse with Shiren. Then I got Tragedy on 2, because again, I want this to resolve, and I'm going to get Alibur. And then Saronir send Retribution, which is, if you're ever not sure what to send with Saronir and you're just starting out your turn, sending Branded Retribution is almost never wrong. It's at least a good starting point. So I'm gonna get Alibur. You kind of couldn't see it there because this thing doesn't like to keep up, but I fused Shiren, who is a dark, with Albion the Shrouded Dragon, who counts as Fallen of Albaz while it's in the field or graveyard, and I made Lubellion the Searing Dragon that way. So this is functionally already... I did That Grass Looks Greener, and it's functionally turned into a Branded Fusion, and Branded Fusion's in here, by the way. It's one of the cards I milled. And I've made Lubellion and put those cards back in my deck for later. I'm going to discard Ad Libitum so I can use him for later, and then go into Dragostapelia just as a free negate I got because I hit Shiren and high-rolled a little bit. Now, of course, we're going to go to Alibur, grab Branded Lost because I have Branded Fusion in my graveyard already. I'm going to get Quem first because I want her effect to resolve after Branded Fusion. I'm going to pitch Cartesia and send Cartesia, and then get the Cartesia as well as get Mercurier to hand off of Branded Lost so I have a Monster Negate effect. I'm going to fuse that away, get Grand Guinal, and then Grand Guinal is going to dump Gimmick Puppet Nightmare because I'm going to go for the Gimmick Lock. I have Mercurier in my hand, and unless they have Called by the Grave, nothing stops this pretty much, right? Gimmick Puppet Nightmare to their board, Druid's Worm to mine, Gimmick Puppet Nightmare resolves. I have Branded Beast on the board, and I can tribute Druid's Worm and pop something. And even we'll see what happens, but they are fairly screwed. I'm going to negate this because I believe they have so little to do. Then I negate that because again they have so little to do. They're going to see that they can't special summon, and then, I remember in the game, they kind of, like, waited for a few seconds, probably, like, confused, realized they can't play anything, and left the game. So that's Grass Branded, and, admittedly a bit of a high roll, but still cool to see. Alright, so here we are with another game with the Grass deck. You can see the 55 marker here. This hand is pretty good, I got Alibur, I got Fusion Deployment, and I got Bistio Lubellion. Two of them kind of little extra, but, you know, just having one in your opening hand is pretty good. Lots of ways to bait bad Ash Blossoms here, so let's see what happens. Always starting with Lubellion to get Saronir. Then I'm going to deploy and they're gonna maxi in response. I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna normal summon the Aluber, get Branded Fusion, get a Branded Fusion, go straight into Sanctifier. And I'm gonna end my turn just like this. So they've gotten 2 draws off of maxi. One I couldn't do anything about, and one to have to finish my turn on. And Albion the Sanctifier is a pretty great thing to end your turn on. As soon as possible, and I'm not going to use Cartesia to fuse yet. I'm just going to save her for their turn. So they're effectively +1 and they max-seed me. Also, they're also on 60 cards, so cool. So they start by setting a card, which is terrible because that gives me a window to respond and they pass priority. I'm going to go for Grand Guignol. They're going to Ash Grand Guignol. So I'm like, oh, okay, so I'm kind of like stuck here a little bit. Then they called by my Quem. They called by on my Quem. They play Regained and Lost. And then they play their own Quem, forgetting how Called by the Grave works. Should have let it resolve, buddy. Should have let it resolve. Because they had done Called by the Grave on my own Quem, their Quem is now stuck and can't do anything. It's just negated. And they're just going to end like that because there's nothing left for them to do. And at this point, they're fairly screwed. They're going to Trap Hole me, Gravediggers me, like whatever. Cool, they have Branded Beast, that's cool. They're going to draw a card and probably hoping they get a Bestial off the top that they can summon and then use for Branded Beast to buy them another turn, but they're not getting another turn. I'm going to set things up, grab my Branded Fusion, and I'm basically just working my way towards lethal damage here. I'm going to make this into Mirror Jade, banish the... my idea is I'm just going to make Mirror Jade, banish the Quem, turn my guys into attack mode, swing for game. I believe they let me get there, but that's all that's really happening. The game's just wrapping up. Oh, they see the writing on the wall and scoop out, which, you know, fair, sure. Is what it is. I would have stuck around in the game just for the duel credit. That's how I play these events, because they make you play like 50 games no matter what to get all the gems. But, yeah. Alright, so back at it with the regular version of the deck, the non-grass version. And this is a pretty good opening hand. Albion the Shrouded, great to see. Foolish Barrow, great to see. Branded Opening, also great to see. All backed up by Called by the Grave and Maxi for during their turn. Looking pretty good. So, I'm going to start by dumping Retribution. Thrust off the top, random draw. Tragedy get Aluber. Aluber effect, gonna go get Branded Fusion because I'm insulated from Ash Blossom. Don't need this thrust anymore. They haven't had any responses yet. And I've Called by the Grave, so who cares anyway. Gonna get Quem, Branded Fusion, Albion the Sanctifier. Quem's gonna go get me that Cartesia out of my graveyard for me. Gonna get Mercurier for that sweet monster negate. Immediately fuse away this Cartesia for Grand Guignol. Grand Guignol dump Albion the Branded Dragon, get Branded Banishment, Cartesia back to my hand because I have a plan. I'm going to be using her as discard fodder, basically, and get free cards. So they're on Kashtira, Fenrir, and I know a lot of people will fire their Maxi and draw phase, but I'm going to be honest, I don't care about Kashtira enough to do that. The deck's just not good enough for me to care about that. Then they reveal that they're also on Tearlaments, so I'm going to put them under Maxi, they're going to play Shiren, and then because I Maxi, they're going to blunder really hard here. They don't know that, I guess they didn't read Grand Guignol and how it's about to get rid of itself, because they're trying to get rid of it before it can do stuff. And they got a pretty great mill off the top. This Hell Shuttle Hollow is going to get them a handful of cards if it resolves. And they were really probably hoping to banish this face down, but that's not what's going to happen. I'm going to get rid of this just to try and stop their mills. And then here's Lulu. Because Lulu has hit the board, Quem is going to trigger. And I'm going to trigger Sanctifier in sequence to get some cards. And I want to fuse with this Tragedy, which will give me another card and stop them from having Shiren hit the graveyard. My objective here is I want to banish this Shiren, or at least be able to. I'm going to have Aliber get me Branded in white for my next turn. I'm going to pitch this Cartesia because she's going to come back to my hand in the end phase. And now I've triggered Branded Loss, so they can't respond to my next chain. But I do let it go because I want to see what they do. And they go for Polymerization. I'm like, okay, let me get rid of this Shiren. Let me get rid of Shiren. That way they can't make Kitkalos, probably. Because they probably have, like, another tier or something in their hand. One, singular. I'm like, alright, let me get rid of Shiren. So, I'm gonna banish Shiren, and then they have it anyway. They have a second Shiren in their hand along with Tier Cash. So, we're dealing with Kitkalos today. However, you're about to see something real funny. Real funny. I'm gonna turn off the fast forward and just let this magic play out. I negate the Kitkalos on the field. Shiren resolves, gets rid of it to make Rulkalos. And then, when Kitkalos tries to resolve, she's still negated. Lulu's negation followed her back to the extra deck because it was part of the same chain, I believe. So Lulu does do work sometimes. She deserves a little bit of credit. She can randomly just really impress you and do things you do not expect. Okay, so here we got a going second game, again with the regular version of the deck. I have 2 Maxi in my hand, which means I'm going to be just firing these off as soon as possible. Super Poly is really great to see in your hand going second, as is Fusion Deployment. Called by the Grave to back everything up here is also fairly stellar. However, it is a little scary because if this Maxi doesn't resolve, and if I were to draw nothing off the top of my deck, right, I'm kind of in a shitty position. So we're going to see what happens. So right away, they're going to play a Traptrix card, and I'm going to Maxi in response because I'm like, okay, it's Traptrix. They have a Link 1 and Sarah. Which you can't respond to, so you'll have to Maxi ahead of time. And I'll get a draw that way, and it's thrust off the top. Not the best, but it's playable. So, back to my turn. Branded Fusion off the top, stellar. You had it every time. So, they're going to Ash Blossom my Fusion Deployment, which is very bad, but I still want this Fusion Deployment to resolve, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to summon Albaz, and I'm going to try and eat this Sarah with the Albaz. So let's play this out. And then they have the Imperm anyway, as well as Labrynth. I was not expecting Labrynth. So I Maxi in response, and I'm going to discard this Albaz I drew, and because this just calls for Albaz plus any extra deck monster, I'm like, okay, I can just Super Poly for Mirror Jade and get rid of Lady that way. That gives me a clear Branded Fusion. I go for Albion the Branded Dragon, and I'm going to get rid of these two, get Dragostapelia, tribute it, get Bestial Rebellion, get Branded Loss, and now I'm going to go for Lethal. However, they unfortunately have Storming Mirror Force. So we're still in this game, unfortunately. But I'm going to still set myself up in such a way that there really shouldn't be very much they can do to me. I got the Branded in red. I got Bestial Serenir in my hand. They have no cards in hand, no cards in field. They drew nothing, and I'm just going to work my way towards lethal here. So, bring back Bestial Rebellion, Serenir, banish the Magmut, which I don't think I even needed to do. I forget what I was even playing to do at the time, but I was like, nah, let's just brand it in red and call the day here. And that gets me my Cartesia. And I'm going to pull Albaz back to my hand with the sword, and then I'm just going to make Sanctifier this way. And then this is lethal on board. It's 8,500 damage. Cool. So yeah, dismantled that fairly easily. The Maxi did... I only got one draw off of it and effectively cycled the card. But, like, it helps a lot. So yeah, that was a fairly easy and quick game. Alright, so here we are in yet another game. This hand, I really want to highlight how weird this hand is and effectively unclogging your hand here. Because as you know, from the deck profiles, there's only one copy of Tragedy in the deck. So my primary target for Foolish Burial is in my opening hand, unfortunately. So we're going to have to make things work here. I'm going to send Albion the Shrouded, right? Foolish Burial, Albion the Shrouded. This counts as an Albaz in my graveyard, and I'm going to brand it in red to bring it back to my hand. And then use other stuff to fuse my other actual Albaz along with Mercurier to make Lubellion. And then Lubellion's going to pitch that Shrouded back to my graveyard for me. This is going to get me Cartesia, and now I have Mirror Jade. Because Albion the Shrouded is in my graveyard, I get to do Cartesia, and I'm going to fuse away this Tragedy and her for Granguinol. I'm going to get Alimer because I still haven't normal summoned yet. Dump the Albion the Branded Dragon off of the Granguinol effect. And they're going to banish some cards. Getting I don't agree with their choices entirely, but they're still good. Albion the Branded is, of course, a really good hit. And Albion the Shrouded, I feel like they could have held on to this second Bestial. I feel like you can get a lot bigger payoff than stopping me from dumping a card of my choice. Because they had done this, I get to pull Quem out of my deck, right? And I'm going to, because they have stuff on the board now, I'm going to just Mirror Jade away their guy. And Quem happened, so I get my Cartesia. Gonna make Sanctifier, put it in the EMZ so I have room for monsters and stuff. And I'm just gonna be chilling and waiting and seeing what I got for this next coming turn. Then I see that they're some kind of Blue Eyes deck. I don't know. I really wish I could look and see what their deck was because it was something. Honestly, the main reason I say it, yeah, I remember when I saw this Rise Heart, I was just like, what is this deck? But I'm like, okay, so maybe they're on some kind of Xyz summoning pile or Link summoning, well, although they can't anymore because Rise Heart's here. So I'm like, let me bring out Dragon Stapelia and bring this Mirror Jade back with Quem so that I can deal with this board a little bit better. Let me get rid of that. And then they Kurikara me. They Kurikara me. So this is a 6,000 Kurikara. I am facing basically lethal damage. I'm sure they can do something to get themselves there, but this is a bad position. Or it would be if I didn't have Sanctifier. So, gonna bring back my Mirror Jade. Throw garbage back onto their board that I don't care about. And then they Underworld Goddess me. I'm like, God damn. They really had it all, huh? I was like, okay, you know, it is what it is. They've, you know, dealt with my board. They've, you know, all that good stuff. They're gonna try and do something, but Despia is thankfully a targeted effect for this negation. And I'm gonna resolve some end phase triggers. Go to my turn. And I'm feeling pretty good here. I just have to remove this Underworld Goddess, and I'm feeling pretty good. I'm going to use, real quick, Tragedy's secondary effect, where you can banish itself to get a branded spell trap onto your field and set it. Then you can activate it. So we're basically just working our way towards lethal here at this point. I'm going for Borreload here because this is also targeted removal. Double pop, and here's Battle Phase. They unfortunately have this trap card I've literally never seen before called Crackdown, which is a, I'll just show this quick. As you can see, it took one of my guys, and then it can't attack or activate effects. And if that card leaves the field, you destroy this card, because of course it's, you know, like an equip kind of thing, but in trap form. I'm gonna be honest, when I was playing this match, I missed the fact that it can't activate effects, so I was really playing around the Borreload Furious dragon here when I should not have been. But still, it's just, you know, gotta survive their turn, and then I'll get lethal. So, I'm gonna get my Mirror Jade back again, give them a useless Rise Heart, and I'm gonna banish this just so, because I thought, my thought was, well, first off, it's the best banish anyway. But my thought was, this can activate, and the only thing like saving me is Despia. But still. At this point, we're just looking for lethal, basically. I'll grab a Monster Negate, go Battle Phase, and then just try and swing for game. I was just trying to do this as quickly as possible. So I was just like, okay, they don't have anything else. I have a Monster Negate in my hand, you know. Empty hand, empty board. Nothing functional in the graveyard, right? Everything here is just super dead. So I'm like, I'm just going to bring back Alibar and let him get game for me real quick. Cool. Done. You don't need to summon anything. You just bring a card back. So, random way to get lethal there. Probably not the most efficient way to play that turn, all things considered, but the main thing, I felt so far ahead that I was kind of just doing whatever I wanted. This deck obviously is not, the deck I was facing is not a good deck, or at least if it is in some capacity, it sure didn't look that way. I kind of just ate them alive for the most part. So yeah, unfortunate we can't look at what their deck exactly is like in normal ladder, but this'll do. Okay, so here we got another pretty standard opening hand, again playing the regular version of the deck against somebody playing some random 40 card thing. I have no idea what they're playing, of course. Opening hand looking pretty good. 2 Albaz, not what you want to see, of course, but very playable. So, gonna start with the Fusion Deployment, bait the Ash Blossom every time. Foolish Burial for Tragedy, gonna grab a Luber. A Luber is gonna get me Branded Fusion because I just saw them Ash Blossom. I know I'm clear to do it. Just gonna go for the standard Albion, dumping Bestial Lubellion line. I have so many Albazes in my hand, I'm just gonna go for Lubellion, the Searing Dragon, into Mirror Jade. Tribute that Albion away, get this Branded Lost, Get rid of the Alibur, dumping Titaniclad, getting Quem, saying Super Poly, branded in red, feeling really good, really good. This is a pretty great opening hand. So, let's talk about this. Pot of Extravagance. Banish 3 or 6 random face down cards from your extra deck face down. Guess what? Cards left the extra deck. So, Artesia gets to activate. Gonna immediately fuse away for the Grand Guinal. Get my Mercurier so I have a monster negate. Dump Ad Libitum for this branded in red I have in my graveyard. And I see, oh hey! It's Vanquish Soul. Let me negate this. Maybe they bricked. Gonna go for the branded in red, targeting Ad Libitum of Despia. Fuse away the Mirror Jade along with 2 cards for branded or Guardian Chimera, right? Off of branded in red. Trigger these in sequence. They're gonna activate a bunch of effects here. I don't know what they were really thinking, but I mean, this just... I was showing this replay mainly to show that, like, Branded doesn't really care about Vanquish Soul. Like, even if they had allowed the chain to resolve, they're gonna, like, destroy Grand Guinal. It goes into the graveyard and still can do its effect, and I'm gonna summon Lulu at some point during my turn, probably. Caesar Valius is gonna die when it chain resolution, and so on and so on. So this is just showing how favored Branded is, really. Overall, feeling really good about this matchup. Vanquish Soul is what I would consider to be one of the like top 5 decks easily. Depending on who you talk to, it might even be top 3 because its matchup into most of the decks is really good. But against Branded, I feel like Vanquish Soul really can't do very much. Especially if Branded went first. Alright, so here we are with another game. The hand is pretty good, aside from the fact that I have Gimmick, Puppet, Nightmare in my hand out of 60 cards. So, back on grass Branded. The hand's pretty good. To quickly explain it, we got Albion the Shrouded, as well as Guiding Quem the Virtuous, and a Bishul Magnemite. So let's see what we can do here. So, of course, going to start with Albion the Shrouded and then proceed to draw another one. Shuffler is fine. I'm going to use Albion the Shrouded to dump Branded Retribution, draw a card, which proceeded to just be him again, and then use Quem to dump Branded Fusion. So a lot of people tend to forget that Quem also will do anything that mentions Albaz. One card that mentions it, and Branded Fusion mentions Albaz. It actually literally says mentions Albaz itself too. So, gonna get Branded Fusion back to my hand and play out the rest of the turn. Gonna go for Lubellion to get this Gimmick Puppet Nightmare out of my hand. Probably try and get some use out of it. Get this Quem to my deck, or out of deck to hand, and go for a Sanctifier. Just gonna go for Gimmick Lock and try and wrap this game up, and it does succeed. Very flimsy Gimmick Lock at that. I mainly just wanted to show off this replay for the Quem plus Albion starting line to get Branded Fusion to your hand. But I'm gonna be real, I don't know what my opponent's playing. This is Duelist level 18 or 19. So it's not like this is just some random dude. This is like almost max rank. At least at the time, max rank. I'm basically just I'm not commentating over this because I'm basically just going for lethal. I'm gonna get Branded White out of my deck. There's not a whole lot to say here because they're so defenseless. I'm literally just about to kill them. You can analyze this if you want, but I'm literally just putting guys on the board and swinging at them because there's nothing they can do to stop me. So yeah, just a really flimsy gimmick lock that paid off. I primarily wanted to show off Quem and Albion to get Branded Fusion as a one of the deck's many ways of fishing out Branded Fusion and putting it in your hand. Alright, here we are with another grass branded replay. Opening hand, fairly stellar. Bit vulnerable to disruption, but very playable otherwise. So I'm gonna go for Aliber, get Ash Blossomed. I really want Aliber to resolve here, so I'm gonna call by on the Ash, get Branded Fusion because now I know they don't have Ash Blossom. Go straight for Sanctifier. Albaz is now in Graveyard, so gonna summon Cartesia for free, get Grand Guinal. Grand Guinal is gonna go dump the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare and set me up for next turn. Right in draw phase, gonna go for the Gimmick Lock, and it succeeds. And resolve Quem, still called by, buddy. Dump Branded Retribution for the follow-up turn, feeling pretty good. They get rid of a Cyber Dragon, and keep in mind, this is like Duelist level 19. It's not like I'm playing against someone who, you know, is in like silver or something. This is, you know, near the top of the current ladder of the Duelist Cup. So they tribute over the Gimmick Puppet Nightmare, probably thinking that that will get rid of the Floodgate effect, and it doesn't. So they just do the only thing they can do. They play the Cyber Dragon out of their hand and crash into Quem. From here, it's just a, you know, working my way towards lethal. Pretty much anything does it here, so I'm just going to go resolve some guys, banish a guy. And Branded Fusion, work my way towards Mirror Jade, just go for game. I mean, I won well before that point, but they just went, okay, cool, I'm done. Alright, here's the last replay, and it's another one with the grass deck. Turns out I went and found another replay, so I'm actually 41 games as I checked my mission, which was I was using as a counter. And I was like, oh, it turns out I played one more game, and I just kind of earlier today and kind of forgot about it. So this opening hand's pretty good. Bit different than what we've seen so far. I'm going to go for the Branded in High Spirits with Bestial Serenir as the target line. Gonna dump Titaniclad, because I'm expecting to throw Quem onto the board this turn, depending on what happens. But then I see they go for Rescue Ace, and I'm like, okay, we got a bit of a thing here. So let me max C, and I'm gonna rig this around. And of course, Albion the Shrouded. Oh, it's not in my graveyard anymore. It's my deck. But he gets me Quem off the top, so I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna rig this around some way that I get value out of this Titaniclad. God damn it. Branded Fusion to my hand. Gonna make Sanctifier. Nothing surprising here. Gonna get this Cartesia back. Fuse away the Tragedy to my hand. Get Grand Guinal. Grab Ad Libitum for the next turn and dump Gimmick Puppet Nightmare. Use this Thrust I've been saving up, Branded in White, to extend a little farther and make Mirror Jade. I could have gotten many different cards, but I decided to get the branded in white here because this Titaniclad is functionally useless. I got Quem off the top, which means I really have nothing to summon off of Titaniclad. I mean, there's another Quem in the deck, right? But I already have a Quem on the board, don't really need it, so I figured, alright, I'll go for a Mirror Jade and try and banish this thing. And then they negate it anyway. I'm like, oh cool, you had Valor. That was the Valor target. I guess it makes sense because they really want Hydrant to stay on the board. So first things first, we're gonna go for the gimmick lock. I believe I misclicked here, like pretty badly, but it's not going to matter because of the line of play I'm going for. I wanted, yeah, they surrendered. They saw they were gimmick locked, and I was about to do more things, and I had banished. Let me bring up the thing. I banished their Hydrant because they negated my Mirror Jade with Effect Valor. So, yeah. Yep. Because remember, if you negate Mirror Jade's effect, let me scroll back up to Valor. Yeah. So if you negate Mirror Jade, while he's doing his thing, he'll be live the next turn. My plan here, I branded in red set, right? So I can't even view the graveyard anymore. But basically, I have a Tragedy in here, right? So I was gonna pull the Tragedy back to my hand. And at some point during the turn, I was either going to fuse away. I was going to fuse away Mirror Jade, Adlib, and then either the Maxi or the Tragedy I drew back, or whatever it is I would pull out of my graveyard at the time. I can't check it to see what the optimal thing is, and I don't remember. Can't click it. But basically, I was just setting myself up for the Mirror Jade reset into after the Guardian Chimera. So yeah, there's another gimmick lock. I know it's like funny to watch or whatever. Kind of a bit of a non-game, but you know, it is what it is. But I hope even the games with gimmick locking, I hope just seeing how you get because I know it's going to be popular. People love the degenerate strategies, and like full locks like this. If I could make a comment on it real quick, I would say I would like Gimmick Puppet Nightmare Band. I don't even think it's that good. It's just that it feels so bad when it resolves. Because it's just a non-game. The only real way to play around it is like a normal summon deck like Flu, or you're on like a bunch of Bystials. And that doesn't even save you sometimes because then you still have to draw the card. Of course, you have like 2 copies of Called By it you can use to stop it. But if the branded player like gets a super high roll with like branded Lost and stuff, you know, and gets like a Mercurier to hand, a lot of your outs to it are gone from that as well. So I hope this video at least showed you a bit about how the deck plays in action, because I found that the deck showing what it's capable of isn't really done justice if you were to just go into like a solo gate and then go like, oh, make this, make this, make this, make this, make this, and then like here's your end board, and like that's good for like, you know, really linear decks that kind of do the same thing every game, and like Mathmech's a good example. Like, oh, here's one of the like 15 or 18 ways we get circular to our hand, and then do the rest of our combo. And like Kashtira, here's your opening hand, and here's how you rig it to get to Shangri-Ira, Rise Heart activation. And then you finish on Shangri-Ira and a Rise Heart, right? Even Dragon Link, which is a combo deck, tends to, even though it's very flexible in how it performs its things, it's still like, it's pretty much the same end board every time. They're still doing the same thing like every time. Branded is very unique in the fact that no two games really look alike. Something about what you're doing is going to change from game to game. Sometimes majorly, sometimes just minorly, but overall, this deck's trickiness is in the execution and decision making you make along the way during your matches. So here's the deck list again. Like I said in the beginning of the video, I'm very proud of this deck. I'll bust out the calculator real quick because I had one more game than I thought I did. So I had 41 games. I lost 4 of them, so that's 37 wins. It's a 90.24 long decimal percent. I'll still just call it 90. So 90% win rate. That is honestly about as good as it gets that you can expect out of a deck. You'll never get a deck with like 100% win rate just because stuff happens, especially in Yu-Gi-Oh! Because any deck can win as long as it's built to win. But overall, I'm very happy with Branded. I do think it's the best deck in the format. Whether you prefer the 46 card version or the grass branded version, whether you prefer Lulu or Coeritus, doesn't really matter. As long as you're playing like appropriate ratios, because everything is so searchable. Like everything searches everything else in the deck. And there's like so many backup lines and stuff for you to do. As long as you understand how the cards connect with one another, the deck is extremely good and versatile and resilient. I'm not even playing Nadir Servant, right? I have it. I tried it a few times outside of the Duelist Cup before I did these games, and I don't know. I still just don't like the card. I still just don't like it. I know some people recommend it in like the 60 card version, but then I'm like, nah. I would just give me Shiren. Just give me Shiren and some other random one of toolbox card. Like that's all I need. That's all I need. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video and the replays mainly. I hope you learned something, as well as how to work the hands you're given and making a board out of something that might seem like a brick at first, such as that game where I had to do Foolish Burial on the Albion the Shrouded Dragon and then kind of kickstart my plays that way, because it was the other deck, but I only had one tragedy, so I kind of had to do that. But overall, like I said, extremely happy with the deck. Looking forward to playing it in the future for a good while. It probably won't take any ban list hits. Fingers crossed. The other thing I'm really looking forward to is the Chimera deck. I won't talk about it too much because that's a bit off topic for this video, but Branded Chimera is or Chimera Branded, however you want to phrase it, or frame it, I should say, is another deck I'm very interested in. It pushes the deck back towards that real mid-rangey playstyle where you do like a couple of like high-value interactions. So looking forward to that in the future too, and totally expecting to make a video on that. But overall, extremely happy with this deck, and hopeful to see more of it in the future.